Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Creator Series Formula 2. Welcome to Season 7, Round number 6. And welcome to the fan vote. It was your opportunity to finally choose a track that we were going to be on and have an opportunity to see where the talented Formula 2 drivers would finally have an opportunity to go racing at. And you've picked one that realistically is not an easy one to race around. It's tight, it's twisty, it's technical. Of course, you would have seen it on social media already. It's Singapore, and that is not going to be a fun one for these drivers. It's going to be real competitive, and it's going to be close, both literally and metaphorically speaking, both in terms of the racing and cars next to the wall. So Singapore should be an intriguing one. And let's do some information on it as well. 19 turns, 4.94 kilometers in length, which is equal to 3.07 miles in length. Obviously, it's an asphalt surface, and our current race lap record, which is held by Lewis Hamilton in Formula 1, is a 1:35.867, which makes sense because apart from Formula 1, the only other cars that race there are Porsche Cup cars, which are specifically to the GT3Rs. So obviously very specific to that, but it is Formula 1 and specifically Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula 1 team that takes that fast lap. But apart from that, it's not about Formula 1. It is about Formula 2. It is about Singapore. And me joined in the commentary box without any further introductions. Matt, welcome. How are you? And obviously making a little commentary debut here in Creator Series on a fantastic morning for the both of us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is definitely exciting, is how I describe how I am. I'm definitely looking forward to this. As you say, Singapore, it's going to be treacherous for some of the drivers. They might not like it, but I think if you're out in front and you're feeling comfortable, a lot of fun around here as well.
No, absolutely. Now, obviously, we can continue with the circuit, and we appreciate the fans for choosing a circuit that is going to cause mayhem and chaos and debris and safety cars and VSCs and the whole lot. We're getting into the sprint race, and we'll switch over very soon. However, there is a man who's continued to lead out in the championship, right out in front, and that obviously is none other than Lolanoba. He had a bit of a rocky one in the sprint race for Austria. He did not win that one. He actually finished in P15 in Austria. However, when everyone has their failures, they have their success too. And when it came to the feature race, it was Lolanoba back on top and has done so in 3 rounds consistently. I believe if we look back on it, it was Spain, Qatar, and Canada where he won the sprint and feature race. He currently sits on 150 points, which is also 51 points ahead of F1 Alex. Anyway, moments away from the sprint race. How are we feeling for this one, Matt?
I'm definitely excited to get into it. I hope everything runs smoothly. We're a little bit late getting started, so we don't have so much intro chat to get into it. We're going to get straight into this sprint race without much delay. And yeah, last week, I was watching back last week's video, and it was a little bit of chaos into the sprint. And now we're going to Singapore with those close walls as well. Hopefully the drivers, they've taken that break to calm down a little bit. And we'll see. As we go racing here, the lights are already on, and they are out and racing away. We are in the sprint race here in Formula 2. Jack Social starting on the front, of course, reverse grid in terms of championship order. Jack will be hoping for redemption after last week crashing out from the front of the grid. So can they keep it together? And can someone like Lolanoba come through?
Big old pile up into the first corner. It's Jessica Bull who now goes in the backwards angle that you probably want to go in for a Formula 2 car. Now down in P16, 8.5 seconds off the nearest car, and a few other drivers now picking up debris. Looks like Adam Sanderson, Lolanoba, and a few more who are right at the front of the championship, right at the back of the field, continuing to make their way through. Currently, if we look on the track map, you can see down in the corner of your screen, we are already approaching into the second sector, already in the second sector, and currently on board in P8 of Dragon Files, who continues to lose out in a few more positions. Now down to P9 as he locks up his front tires. Clearly someone who has debris and damage. Few bit more pieces just continuing to scrape along the asphalt ground. And now it looks like things are settling down, but does it ever do so in Marina Bay as it continues to look like carnage and more drivers just trying to straighten out and get into a bit more of a zone? It has not been an easy start for any of these drivers. A few people are definitely going to come into the pit lane. A big lockup between a few drivers, and that now sees a bit more of a scattering for position. Jessica Bull still in P16, 9.9 behind F1. Damien goes up to P11, actually down as F1 Alex goes on the inside line, gets the rotation through, and it looks like up in UPAND is also up to P3. Absolute chaos throughout the midfield and front end.
In the mid-pack here, Yours Sincerely has been struggling a couple of times. They've slid through the corners and had contact with the driver behind. And earlier on as well, I saw some parts flying, so there might be a few cars. Oh, there's another spin there as well. So there's a few guys going around early doors. And I think there might be a few damaged front wings, so we'll keep an eye on if people end up having to come into the pits early on in this race. Only 12 laps, of course. The sprint race comes at you thick and fast.
Obviously, in a sprint race, we have no mandatory pit stops, so no one actually has to come into the pit lane. They can continue to stay out, and they may lose out too much time. It's probably the reason they're staying in. They are going to P6, a good will-to-will battle here onto the back straight, currently on the first sector between Hayden Gillis and Infratic, already making their way out of the exit of turn 5, already at the kink of turn 6, and approaching at the braking of turn 7. Late braking goes Hayden Gillis into P7, stays where he is. Infratic defending the inside line. A reserve driver now stuck on the outside, but it is Hayden Gillis who stays where he is in P7. Very large defending at the moment. More yellow flags being deployed. F1 Damien now down to P15 from where he was. Adam Sanderson also needing to do a pirouette in P14, spinning out from his current position. Few more mistakes being made. Low amount of grip and traction clearly being found on the circuit so far. U-Panda's also down to P4, taking the outside line, trying to get the rotation, just struggling to get the turn in.
Yeah, we have a few drivers trying to get past now. Jack Socials, we talked about, could he hang on? Starting to come under pressure from some of the guys coming through the field, and late on the brakes. Oh, we're in the wall. Chestnut. That is a front wing I was talking about losing. Oh, he's reversing into the driving line as well. Man, everyone managing to avoid it, so that was good, but that is some heavy damage there.
Unfortunately, it did look to be maybe Luke Howick just getting too late on the brakes, locking his rear or even front tires there. You couldn't get the rotation through, completely blocking any type of line that could be taken for the other driver, and has seen himself go into the barrier. Damage was probably low, but it's Chesnoy Gaming now coming into the pit lane, and Trident is now a man down. It doesn't help that Adam Sanderson down in P14. Does help he's P3 in the championship. Doesn't help in his current position as he continues to make it up. However, that could have also been positions lost, so it isn't P3 in the championship, my apologies. But Hayden Gillis now on the outside line in P6.
Oh, there's another spinner. Who did we see there in the background? Jack Socials might have been around. Oh, let's see if I can pick it up. Rejoined. But there's definitely been drama early doors. We saw a couple of drivers coming into the pits, as we suspected might be the case. But one driver who has made it through the field and avoided all of that chaos, Dark Viper here, out in front now, number 1 on the car, position at number 1 in the sprint race, and looking tidy, pulling away 3.7 seconds.
No, absolutely, and he's actually a reserve driver as well, replacing one of the many Formula 2 drivers who couldn't make it this weekend. And Dark Viper GT has put in a lot of work throughout the championship as well. If we actually have a look at his position, currently in P8, and you know, he's scored solid positions at the moment. Nothing significant like a race win or a podium, but could definitely be done this time around here in the sprint race. Like you mentioned, 3.4 seconds out ahead. Luke Howick on the outside line, going into the next corner at turn 15 as you approach onto the bridge here at Singapore and at the Marina Bay street circuit. Looks like Luke Howick actually braking quite late, losing position out. Bit of a wiggle there on the rear end of the car, and actually there is U-Pandas who's gone into the barrier as well through into the exit of turn 16, to turn 14.
They're starting to settle down in the front positions. There's gaps opening up out front, and then there's still positions in the midfield that are unresolved, and these mistakes are starting to be what makes the difference. Oh, a little bit more squirrely through that corner from U-Pandas, but that's what's giving the spots up. It's not about aggressive moves at this stage. It seems to be that drivers running wide, just opening the door, and the person behind straight through the gap.
Well, Krisik's currently in P6. He's 2.5 tenths off P5. His teammate in the Van Amersfoort racing car, the Dutch team that normally drives around places like Zandvoort. Luckily, in this case, it isn't going to be Zandvoort. I mean, not luckily, it's a fantastic circuit, but we're offered great racing here at Marina Bay Street Circuit and around the Singapore Grand Prix. And right now, bringing himself closer in the shades of the sun down the inside goes Krizik. Can't seem to make the move stick, however, stays right on the rear diffuser of Jack Socials, continuing to bring himself closer in the 3.4-litre single turbocharged V6 Mechachrome mid-engine. And it looks like now going down the inside, Krizik still can't seem to get the move done. Run very wide, however, Jack Social is now down to P6. Krizix taking that inside line. Have to wait and see how the stewards will think about that one. But P6 in position for Jack Social is another reserve driver taking the position. Actually, both of VAR are reserve drivers. And now Dragonfiles with in P7 with DRS, the same as Jack Socials. Doesn't look like he's going to go for a move, but is there going to be late braking? Bit of a late brake going into the rear end of the car. No damage, however, so stays in position.
Yeah, some nice driving here between this lot. You can see the gap already opened up by Krizix, one of the quick drivers in this series, having to make their way through the field. And yeah, they'll be continuing to try and make those moves further up as well. Look at that, they're tagging onto the back of that next group. As it's a little battle pack forming here for P3 behind Hayden.
Absolutely, 4 tenths at the moment. It's definitely starting to close down. Krizix 7 tenths behind. 1.9 for Jack Socials, however. He's definitely started to close away from his teammate in the VAR. So really it comes down to a three-way battle. Hayden Gillis 4.5 seconds off P2, and F1 Damien actually making a mistake on circuit. However, it does actually look like a retirement in the pit lane, so there will be no safety car or any debris out on circuit. Clearly not happy with how his race went, has now brought it to a close. Krizix also starting to close down that gap towards Luke Howick in P4. It's clear that maybe the VAR has a bit more pace on his side compared to what maybe the Dams car in F2 has. Bit of a touch on the barrier as well. Could have lost an M plate, and P5 of Krizix now looking to potentially size up a move going in to turn 7, but it doesn't look like anything sized up at the moment. Continuing now, sticking on the inside line, a bit more grip as he goes onto the outside, but as he gets onto the parking lot, clearly doesn't work in his favor.
And you can see the difference that these tight walls are making. They're having to back out of some of these moves on the exit as they get sort of squeezed close to these walls. Good driving from these two, battling it out, leaving just about enough space that they're able to carry on. Fight another day. We're only on lap 5, so there's still plenty of time to come. Oh, there's a butt in the background. Who was that? Somebody's in the fence there.
That's Dragonfiles and P9 in the high-tech GP car, missing a front wing, no safety car deployed. Adam Sanderson's now also been able to bring up closer towards him, 4.5 tenths, but moving back up to the front of the field, looks like 3.5 tenths for Krizix in P5, keeping close action on Adam Sanderson in P10. Couldn't seem to close down the move near towards the end of the pack, so sticking back with P5 of Krizix. Right now, it seems to be a close battle for potential P4 on the board. However, the timing sheet just looking like he may be struggling a touch. U-Pandas with a 3-second time penalty against his name. Jack Socials falls down to P7. F1 Alex goes up to P6. And Krizix still in P5, looking to try and bring himself closer. I'll tell you what, one thing I'm really finding quite strange at the moment with this sprint race is Formula 2 and Singapore during the day. It's such a strange atmosphere.
I thought something was off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But yes, during the day in Formula 2, it's a different atmosphere for sure. But the racing still definitely producing at the moment. And again, we're seeing some of those penalties come in, those track limit warnings coming in that could play a result.
Sorry about that. That was the Dams Racing of Lolanoba making slight contact to Jack Socials. Obviously, the dominant championship leader has won a feature race for the last 4 Grand Prix. Currently in P7 as he tries to bring himself another victory in a sprint race. Halfway through this race already, and he's practically halfway up in terms of positions. However, he needs to do more than just that if he wants to win this Grand Prix. Dark Viper GT with a 3.9 second advantage as well. As we go to P5, Krizix down the inside, goes in positions. Bit of a quick kick on the rear there, but it now looks like Luke Howick will stay in P4 as we get back onto the back straight. And you can see as we approach towards the Ferris wheel, no more bridge that you drive under. It is a straight that continues on until you reach the final couple of corners. And actually Luke Howick starting to bring down that gap to Hayden Gillis as well. Yellow flag in the second sector. That is yours sincerely going spinning on the exit of turn 14.
Managed to gather it back up, but yeah, you touched on Lolanopa there. That's someone we haven't talked about much because they started at the back. We mentioned it pre-show that they're going to have to try and come through the whole field, been dominant so far, but it looks like on the front, a little bit of front wing damage perhaps. Maybe that's slowing them down a little bit, but up into 7th place, still, I was going to say 7 laps. Let me do some streamer math. 5 laps left to go. So there's still time. Let's see how far they can push on. But the gaps now towards the front of the field are opened up a bit more. So it's not just a case of continuously passing. They are going to have to catch cars in between as well.
Another penalty goes to Luke Howick with a 3-second time penalty to his name. Luke Howick still struggling to keep position against Krizix. It's been a constant pressuring for the VAR car against what looks to be a continuous loss in time for the Dams racing car, and Luke Howick eventually may need to give up position, but in a place like Singapore, especially at the end of the second sector, look at all the places you can defend at. The walls are so close to one another as they come across the bridge, and now to the outside line to maximize the exit of the corner. Gets the throttle down, flat to the floor, pedal to the metal. DRS now active for the Formula 2 car, allowing for aerodynamic advancements approaching into turn 14. And actually that would be turn 13, and continuing now on the rotation of the corner. Now on to turn 15, onto the back straight. DRS not necessary as P4 well and truly gained in position for Krizix. It was not an easy one, continued to fight away with Luke Howick, but finally moves settled in stone, and already a 1-second deficit continuing to break away. It's actually 1.5 now, and 9/10 separated between P4 and P3.
What a great battle they were having there for multiple laps, Krizix and Luke Howick. In the end, it's resolved by that big lockup. Luke didn't want to give the position up, went so deep, and picked up that penalty in the process, unfortunately.
F1 Scott going into the barrages momentarily, but no damage on his side. Looks to be all good, but it just shows you in terms of how many people have made mistakes or lost grip or had a spin or just seemingly going to the runoff areas or the marshal posts. It's clear to see that the grip around Singapore, especially during the day when temperatures are higher, you know, your tires are overheating. A lot of these drivers are on the soft compound tires as well. Maybe the super softs could just get into the temperature a little quicker compared to what those softs could do and have a little bit more grip on their side as well. It's clear to see that Singapore is definitely struggling for grip, and it makes sense when you have your usual just road-going cars. You know, nothing really special, you know, about it. Plenty of tread and rubber being spread on the asphalt. It's not tarmac specifically, asphalt road that gets used every single day for hours, 24 hours, 7 days a week, constantly. It completely tarnishes any type of grip you may get in a Formula 2 car and slick compound tires.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as you touched on there, the tire choice, all on softs except for Dragonfiles. They're on the super softs, and I'm not sure that decision has worked out for them down in 15th at the moment.
Don't ever listen to me, because it is Dragonflies. It's a force of habit, and I've apologized to him before because I keep saying I'm going to start saying Dragonflies, and I never do. I keep saying files. It is really bad for me. Anyway, VAR, Krizix, P4 looking to potentially size up a move against Hayden Gillis, currently fending off the podium position. So it's been a good fight and a good push for Krizix in the VAR. Are we finally going to start seeing a good opportunity to potentially make a move into the top 3? Right now, I can tell you the top 3 has completely separated themselves. Dark Viper GT, 4.2 seconds out ahead. Hayden Gillis, an additional 7.9 seconds ahead. But now, actually behind, my apologies, but now Krizix on the inside line will send it. DRS shuts down the inside. It goes the VAR car. Squeezes out, not enough to completely go off track limits. Hayden Gillis defending the inside line, now sending it down on his side. Unfortunately, slight contact to the side pod of the Formula 2 car, getting the rotation through, sticking to the apex of the corner. Now Dragonfiles with a 141.854 on the super soft compound tires, clearly finding the grip, traction, and pace in those purple-colored compound tires. Yours sincerely with a 3-second time penalty for track limits, and the battle between Luke Howick and Hayden Gillis continuing to increase, but it's actually Krizix and Hayden Gillis, and it's Krizix who's now gone up to P3, making that move stick in stone. Hayden continued to try and bring himself back into position, couldn't get it done, switched to the outside line, millimeters away from the barrier. Does he get another opportunity a little later into this lap? Obviously no more bridge, it continues onto the back straight, no DRS here either, just using the slipstream and toe down the inside. Goes the ART, slightly wide, has to go onto the runoff. Krizix using the rest of the chicane, so back into position goes the VAR.
Great battle. Krizix has been putting on a show in this race. Up into third, but Hayden Gillis is not giving in. Wants that spot back. Little mistake. Had to get the spot back going using the runoff. But now into the next lap. He's not losing out. We've seen Krizix just blast past, well not blast past, but once they get past, they've sort of disappeared up the road on the previous drivers. But now Hayden is here putting up a fight. Can they get back close enough, keep within that DRS range, get that crucial extra speed. There you see the wing open. He's going to close back in again.
Unfortunately making just a bit more of a mistake and kicking out on the rear end there on the exit, and now sees himself 7 tenths down, which is closed down to 4 tenths using the DRS towards his advantage, but has lost out time due to it. Debris may be spread because of that slight contact he would have just had with the barrier, but seems to be all good in terms of rotation. The car, no more further understeer or drag being produced, and seems to continue in his current position. F1 Alex with the penalty against his name, same for Luke Howick. Really starting to see a bit more of a separation in the field. U-Pand is 9 tenths and Jack Social is 5 tenths off, but really the fight is near the front of the field at the moment. F1 Scott also in P13, bringing himself closer towards Chesnoid Gaming in P12, but nothing occurring at the next couple of corners. So it really is starting to settle down and get into a bit more of a groove here. 2 laps remaining in the Grand Prix, and Hayden Gillis looking to really struggle on grip at the moment.
Yeah, so it looks like Krizix has managed to pull away eventually. He's having a little bit extra pace there to Hayden at this stage, and as you say, we're getting towards the end, so grip will be limited a little bit as these tyres do wear out. 12 laps onto the softs. We'll be feeling it a little bit. But one driver I did want to talk about again, Lolanova, who the progress has somewhat stopped, stalled out in the 7th place. They're unable to close in. Drivers in front do have the penalties, so if they can get within 3 seconds, at the moment, I think maybe they are just carrying a bit damage from the early stages.
There was a bad move that was made by Dragonflies. Unfortunately, just looking to do a pirouette, so he goes back in the right direction. And unfortunately made contact with yours sincerely out in front. Could be front wing damage for the both of them. You can see Dragonflies currently going left and right, trying to see what type of grip he currently has, what type of downforce he's able to produce in the car. And it looks like to go down the inside line, potentially going 2 abreast at the next straight, and now goes to the rear end and the rear diffuser of the Formula 2 car ahead. Obviously Campos looking to go defensive before going back onto the outside line to maximize the rotation of the corner. Clearly front wing damage is not helping him, and that's another 3-second time penalty for yours sincerely, who now in P14 coming into the pit lane. May be the end of the race for him. Dragonflies continues on through to the timing line up to P14. However, how will yours sincerely see that later on? We'll have to wait and see. Back up towards near the front of the field. And P5 starting to stall out as well. Positions aren't being made as quickly as we saw previously. And clearly there is a big deficit in terms of grip and traction. And just showing you how quickly tires can degrade in a place like Singapore.
Yeah, F1 Alex is a prime example of that just before, sliding into the camera shot and losing out time. And Hayden Gillis actually has started to drop back now. So maybe just used up the tyres too early in this race. Luke putting on the pressure, but it does have that 3-second penalty hanging over his name. So as we're on the last lap, again, F1 Alex is sliding around, trying to make it to the end. It looks like Hayden Gillis won't necessarily need to defend this, but as a race driver, you always want to win on track, not have to rely on penalties.
Well, lap 12 of 12, the final lap of racing, and Luke Howick in P5 is trying to size up a move to potentially go up to P4 against Hayden Gillis. Right now, we switch to the man in P1 and Dark Viper GT. Well, I think well and truly ahead would still be a complete understatement. 4.5 seconds. P2 is an additional 6.6 seconds ahead of Krizix in P3. He got that move done, kept it there, and Luke Howick is going to look to send it down the inside. A bit more bumping and tackling between the two as they continue on hustling and bustling. The cars around, debris spread, and someone's gone immediately into the barrier, and it looks to be potentially F1 Alex had done so, but it could have been a blue flag. I believe Dragonfiles was the one to go right nose first into the barrier. That caused a blockade for Hayden Gillis, who now falls down to P6. F1 Alex now sneaks up to P5, braking early, using the inside line. Luke Howick finds that opportunity to go up to P4, and all the way out in front in the third and final sector, a minute 32 is named. Apex to apex, curb to curb, Marina Bay on a setting sun will come around the final corner. Dark Viper GT wins the sprint race here in Singapore, and a great start to a reserve drive that is for MP Motorsport. And another great drive for him. We saw podiums last season. It's another podium for him this season. Krizix will finish in P3 with Infratic in P2. Formula 1 driver being able to finish in the podium positions. Another fantastic showcase of a driver's ability. F1 Alex P5 and Luke Howick, who got that job done against Hayden Gillis. Hayden will be disappointed. Something that was completely out of his control, just too tight of an environment, got blocked out by what looked to be Chesnoid Gaming or even Dragonflies, who unfortunately went nose first into a barrier and has completely fallen away from a potential P4, which now becomes a potential P6. Well, actually a confirmed P6 for Hayden Gillis. Lola Nova, your championship leader, only P7, but a fantastic race on display. And for P1, Dark Viper GT got the job done.
Absolutely great drive from Dark Viper there. Managed to get to the lead within those first few laps, and then from there never looked back, just maintained that gap, increased it to 4 seconds, I think it was at the end there. Just a spectacular drive, and disappointment for Hayden. I talked about he didn't need to fight it with that 3-second penalty to the other drivers, but in the end he dropped it and lost more than 3 seconds.
No, absolutely, and it is unfortunate for him. You know, in Hayden's case as well, you know, completely out of his control. Unfortunately, he looked to make and at least maximize the circuit, which in a lot of cases, if not every case, you should be doing. You know, you're trying to get the maximum amount of time that's possible, trying to find the best pace that you can on circuit. But in a lot of cases where, you know, and you're in a place like the Marina Bay Street Circuit and, you know, the positions are so tight between one another and, you know, the environment and the walls are right next to the cars. One mistake by another driver could be the demise of another as well. So it's a shame, but Hayden Gillis finds himself down P6 and a win towards Dark Viper GT. I mean, practically from start to finish, it was P1 for the MP Motorsport cars. That's 11 points to his name, which is a fantastic upward trajectory for Dark Viper GT. He currently finds himself in the championship in P8 and with a final, with finally a podium to his name. Obviously, we've only seen lower positions for him, P14, P20 in Qatar, and no finish in the sprint race with P20 in the feature race for Austria. Finally, we see some victory in the case for Dark Viper GT.
Yeah, I think he can be very happy with that, and almost call him the super sub at this point, coming in and getting results every time that he joins. It's been awesome to see, and you touched on it there. We talked about it before the race, how much the walls were going to play a role in this one, and we saw definitely quite a few drivers getting caught out, tapping the walls, quite a few front wings missing their end plates in that race, and it made a big difference to the results.
Apologies for the noise, by the way. I'm currently fixing my armchair. Sometimes the screw likes to come out, which is a little annoying, but we fixed it. Anyway, action ahead of us and a feature race ahead of us too. A fantastic sprint race which saw Dark Viper GT pick up the lead in that one and the win at the very end of it. Not in the championship, of course. Lola Nova still picking up points, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. The lights go out and Peltometer sent drive-through penalty for F1 Scott, and it is carnage, and I have realized why, and I'm silly, and I have forgot the structure for Formula 2, and I apologize to the viewers. I forgot. We got qualifying first. My bad. I got that one wrong.
I was going to call you out, but I was like, it's my first time here. No. Maybe I'm the one that's making the mistake. I thought there was going to be calling.
It's practice. It's not like I've done Formula 2 for like 3 seasons now. Oh, dear.
I think all the drivers realized as well as they immediately just caused chaos and crashes.
Blame F1. I did it once last week, and it's completely messed the structure brain. Oh dear. Either way, absolute carnage unfolding. The thing is, it kind of made sense as soon as I saw 1, and then 2, and then the entire grid getting drive-through penalties, and I went, oh, okay, here we go, nice. Either way, fantastic race. Obviously, when it came to the sprint race itself, not whatever the carnage, this is ending up being, in the case of the actual sprint race that did, occur itself, Dark Viper GT just showed how dominant he can be, no matter the conditions. He had degrading tires, the same as just any other driver that was on that circuit. No mandatory pit stops, meaning you could easily stay out for the entirety of that race, which a lot of drivers did. In the case for Dark Viper GT, did exactly that. Same for the podium positions that ended there. Actually, same for the top 5. And it just shows you the difference in terms of how competitive you can be on a circuit. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of that podium, I think actually all 3 of them are Formula 1 drivers, or at least reserve drivers filling in for Formula 2 drivers. So it's very possible that they just have more pace and can be more competitive on circuit compared to some of these full-time drivers, because, you know, we don't get to see their pace very often. We can't really measure it, you know, in comparison to what maybe those full-time drivers can do, and we get these opportunities where we can, and it's clear in the favor for Dark Viper GT. Another big showcase in his favor.
Yeah, and I think we're probably doing Infratic a little bit of injustice as well. We haven't talked about their second place so much, because they just quietly kind of went about their work and got up there. Didn't see so many battles like we did with, say, Krizix, who had to come through the field, and everyone seemed to put up a fight against Krizix, which was great for us watching. And I'm sure it was a lot of fun driving as well, to be fair. But yeah, Infratic doing a great job to come home second, and Krizix as well, to be on the podium.
To be honest, I think there's a good reason why, and it's a point I think we should make. It's just a part of the racing, of course. Singapore is tight. It's a tough circuit. You know, the walls are close. The cars don't have a lot of room to overtake, especially throughout the majority of that second sector, both from the start to finish. You only get that quite minute straight. I believe it's only 0.2 kilometers, even less than that. So you really don't get a lot of opportunities for overtaking in that second sector. But overall, in the entirety of the circuit, you know, you have a few back straights. After the exit from the bridge, you get a nice straight that continues for good overtaking. Plus, you get DRS there, and then also considering the fact that you also get DRS. So actually, no, you don't, but you get a longer straight before going into the final couple of corners before crossing that timing line. So the point I'm making, right, apart from a few overtaking opportunities here and there and DRS being supplied in certain opportunities here, Singapore is not a very opportunistic, track. I mean, we can even implement real life into this. I mean, take Formula 1. I believe it was 2023, Singapore. Max made a mistake in qualifying, or it wasn't. It was a lack of fuel, so they had to bring him. You had to bring him into the pit lane and end his qualifying early. He was actually going to be on a very competitive lap time. He started P12, P11. I forgot his exact position. However, it was clear to see, because of how tight it was, how tricky it was, and how high tire dead can be. I mean, Singapore is an extremely humid circuit. It's not easy to drive on. You know, the temperatures are high. Drivers sweat and lose more weight in this circuit than any other circuit on the calendar. It's not easy. It's tough on these drivers, and it's tough on the tires. And, you know, trying to keep cooling, both in the brakes, in the tires, and overall the engine as well. It's not easy.
Yeah, and talking about how tough the track is, remember as well, this was the fan vote week, so they didn't have the preparation. They didn't know until today's vote was revealed that this was going to be the track. So maybe that plays a role as well. Some of these drivers would be more familiar with Singapore and would be ready to jump in. Dark Viper looked like they had it under control, but some of the other ones maybe, you know, last minute decision on the track, and then they have to try and figure it out. A quick few laps practice and then into a sprint race straight away.
Absolutely. And we had a lot of options as well. You know, we had 8 fan vote options in terms of circuits. 8 different circuits we could have chose through. I believe Suzuka was one of them, Baku. I believe we also had, obviously, Singapore. A few others that isn't really coming to mind at the moment. I believe Kota was another. There was a lot of options, a lot of technically challenging, but also quite diverse circuits, you know, that you could go racing on, actually have a fantastic race on display. But knowing you cheeky fans, what they love best is to cause carnage, and carnage is what they got. Plenty of spins, plenty of people running off, plenty of drivers not getting the grip that they were probably hoping for, and it caused a very interesting sprint race.
A lot of fun from our perspective, I have to say, to watch the drivers do it, and now they have to get ready for the one-shot qualifying.
Exactly.
Where again the pressure is going to be on, as they're only going to have the one chance. You can't make mistakes here, and with the wall so close, how hard do you push now? Because starting at the front can be a huge advantage.
It can be, and we're not doing the feature race for anyone that's thinking that. Definitely not me. So obviously, it is only one single opportunity. You don't get a second lap. It physically only gives you a single lap to get this right. So you have to lay down your mark. You have to set a lap alight, and it's going to happen right now here in Formula 2. So let's try and stick near the front. Obviously, it's a little difficult to try and pick out the driver. We're going to stick on board with Hayden Gillis. I don't know with who you are on board with, but up in P2 at the moment is the ART car going into turn 1, braking in, downshifting all the way to 3rd gear before getting into the next couple of parts of the circuit to get the rotation through. And let's get some times on the board here so we can actually get a better idea. So Hayden Gillis goes up to P9, continuing to try and work his way through the circuit. Obviously, it's not an easy one. You go onto the first straight of many and your first real opportunity to overtake. So out of the exit of turn 5, then you get the kink of turn 6 before downshifting all the way to 3rd gear, making sure to just stick on that white line. It's not easy. And once you invalidate, that's it in terms of qualifying times for you to set down. Hayden really maximizing the circuit as he goes wall to wall. It is Lolanoba out in P1 with no shock to anyone at the moment. And luckily you have the luxury of just clicking a key and getting there. I have to do the very slow process of getting there eventually. Yours sincerely, unfortunately, looking to make a slight mistake. Krizix goes up to P1 as Lolanoba just continuing to make a few errors as they go into the exit of the 2nd sector and onto a DRS part. Activated there for the rear wing of Krizix in P1 in the VAR Van Amersfoort racing car. And Formula 2 really starting to show what they can do here in qualifying. Lolanoba looking to just kind of tussle for position between P1 and P2, but it is definitely close at the moment. And right now it's starting to close in.
Down the straight, they're swapping positions, so they must be really equal on this lap for that pole. We saw last week in the interview, Lolanoba talked about wanting to start on the front. They get frustrated in the reverse grids, often picking up damage, or not often, but sometimes picking up damage in the carnage. They want to be at the front, but they're not going to be because Krizix has set the provisional pole, and Lolanoba 2/10 down through that after that final sector.
It's a solid margin. It definitely is. 2:07 is the gap between P1 and P2. It's not too hard or too far behind between any other driver from P2 below, obviously, making that reference as Lolanoba is our championship leader. Though he's not on pole position, he is still technically out on front on the front row of the grid. In P2, it's a perfect opportunity, especially off the line with such little traction that you seem to be able to acquire at a place like the Marina Bay Street Circuit. This still could be anyone's game, and this could be a perfect opportunity for Lolanoba to take P1 in a moment's notice. However, with 10 seconds left on the clock, this is going to get close.
And some of the names to point out here, Enfratic a little bit further down after a great result in the first race. Hayden as well, down in that mid-pack battle, so they'll be... You know, if they've got the same pace from that first race, they'll be looking to try and make up positions from there.
No, absolutely. Feature race is ahead of us. And, whew, you know what? Take a breath, everyone. Just take a breather. We've had a sprint race, one-shot qualifying, and now we have the big one. The one that decides majority of the points. The one with the longest distance. The one that decides championships. Sprint races help. They get you the points, and every single point counts. And that's what matters. However, this is where the big bucks come in. This is where drivers need to have zero errors, and they need to make the maximum of it. And the best way they're going to be able to achieve that is in a place like Singapore and in a place like the Marina Bay Street Circuit, because with such little grip and such little traction, they really have no room for error.
Yeah, and we talk about how difficult overtaking is. I think the start, therefore, has even more crucial to get off the line quickly, try and get away into turn 1, as we're about to go racing with the feature race.
5 red lights. The lights go out and it's Pelton Medal here in Singapore for the actual time here. It's Damien now up to P14 against Jackson Wall, who now falls down to P15. Krizix in P1 defends his position with absolute confidence. Lolanoba now into P2, continuing to struggle in terms of grip and traction. And that sees Dragonfiles up to P3 with Dark Viper GT on the attack, looking for the outside line. Can't seem to get it done, so we'll stay in P4 for the time being. Continuing in the MP Motorsport car, about to mix it up with VAR. They are so close in terms of their looks and design, but as they continue onto the outside line, MP tries to get it moved, stuck in stone, uses the outside to maximize the exit, looks for the inside line, can't get it done, will stay in his position for the time being. F1 Scott goes up to P6, continuing to roll through and rotate to the best of his ability. Can't seem to get it done. That sees Chesnoid Gaming up to P7, a much cleaner start to what we saw in the sprint race, and clearly a bit more just patience and competence on the racetrack.
Yeah, great to see a clean start. I think all the drivers have managed to get through the first couple of sectors all right. And, you know, maybe just now that they've got their eye in after doing that sprint race, everyone realized how dangerous it can be, and we've calmed things down for this opening lap.
Right now, F1 Scott currently in P6, bringing himself closer in the PHM Formula 2 car. Chesnoy Gaming in the Trident in P7, trying to bring himself closer. But right now, can't seem to get it done. Will try and use the slipstream and tow from the rear diffuser to bring himself closer as Hayden Gillis now on the outside line, defending against F1 Damien in P12. Yours sincerely not too far behind either, but it is Hayden Gillis who stays in P11 for the time being. Chrysics with a 1:43.086 takes the fast lap of the race. No surprise there, as he has the cleanest air available to him, and also has a good opportunity to try and stay ahead and also bring out a longer gap ahead with 1.7 now to his name.
Yeah, we saw them coming through the field in the sprint race. Now Chrysics out in front, and they're showing they've got just as much pace in the clear air as well. 1.8 second lead, that's the biggest gap across the field, I think, at least in the top 10. So he is just checked out in front, trying to drive those clean laps. And I think if we look at the tyres as well, that might tell a story, because Lolanopa there on the soft tyres and most of the other drivers around on the super softs.
Well, F1 Alex currently in P5, looking for the rotation on the apex of the corner, just misses it by an inch or two, but getting onto the throttle, flat to the floor, pedal to the metal. Chesnoy Gaming now goes up to P6 as he continues his attack upwards in position. Didn't have the greatest qualifying of all time, but looking to try and make the changes necessary to fix the errors he made, and currently up to P6 in a very quick, vast amount of moves being made. Infratic, as you mentioned, who finished in P2 in the feature race, in the sprint race, sorry, coming to the feature race, just seemingly not having the same pace that we saw before, potentially just thinking about saving his tires and thinking about strategy-wise to try and jump any driver ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Tyre strategy playing a role in the feature race. Sprint race, just flat out all the way. But now we're going to see they have to change tyres at some point. They have to use two different sets. So we'll see all these super soft runners eventually have to go onto the softs. And the other thing to watch out for is if there is a safety car in this race. Again, I was watching last week's stream. Feature race featured a safety car, and that changes things as well. So keep an eye on the strategy of how this one plays out through the race.
Adam Sanderson looking to potentially go into a three-way battle here. 3 Formula 1 cars between P11, 12 and 13, and yours sincerely retiring for what is the second time round, not in the pit lane clearly. It may have been on the entry to it from what I can see on the circuit. Either way, virtual safety car deployed. Everything just comes to a halt for a standstill. Obviously, Delta will keep these guys behind each driver and stop them from speeding above a limit that the FIA would deem fair. And now just puts everyone in a moment to breathe, blink for once.
It was almost a commentator's curse there, right? I just talked about safety cars, and then straight the virtual safety car comes out, and it's given us a chance to see that Chrysics was way in front there, or maybe just playing with that delta a little bit, because it said 4 seconds for a minute there. I thought something crazy must have happened, but down now to 1.2, so closing back up to what we saw before the safety car.
Absolutely. Chrysics out in P1, 2.5 seconds to his name, and actually a bit of a tyre story for you. Man in P2, Lolanoba, who has stayed in P2 since the start of the race, qualified in that position, 2/10 off P1 in there, and obviously VSC now coming to an end as green flag running, and Chesnoy Gaming for speeding under VSC conditions coming to an end. Obviously, you'll get a little radio message from Mark saying that obviously it's coming to an end, and in the case for Chesnoy, went a little bit too early, and then Infratic now going wheel to wheel, 2 abreast down the back straight, approaching towards the pit lane line, and that now sees himself staying in P6 as Chesnoy continues his attack, trying to make further positions, but it's now Chesnoy Gaming coming into the pit lane to potentially switch out more than just some tires.
Yeah, that is a particularly early stop, so I wonder if something else has happened there, but maybe the first
speeding in the pit lane. I don't think this may continue for him. He may retire. I have to wait and see what his decision is going to be, but normally if you speed in the pit lane and do a drive-through, however, he's just going to take it on the chin, 10-second time penalty, he's going to come out, he's going to continue racing. So unfortunately him, he's now tried getting rid of a drive-through, and in the case trying to do so, he's now picked up a 10-second time penalty.
From bad to worse. Sometimes when it rains, it pours. It's not going well there for Chestnut Gaming, but a big battle here for third place. Dragonflies taking on Dark Viper. I had to pause there to see if it was, to try to remember if it was flies or fires. You have stitched me up a little bit by having watched you get it wrong previously, but this is a close little battle, and you can see them having to back off close to these walls, trying to stay within those track limits because you don't want to pick up that penalty for going off 3 times.
No, absolutely. And Infratic, currently in P7, the Pramer, trying to bring himself a little bit closer towards Luke Howick, hasn't been able to get it done. I believe from what I'm seeing in terms of championships, this is Infratic's 2nd time, currently reserving. He's done it once back in, I believe, Spain, where he competed, and it was P2 in the sprint race, P6 in the feature race. So he's not actually done too bad in terms of his career. And actually, if we link it up to what his current positions are, is Dark Viper GT sends it down the inside of Dragonflies up to P3, and into the podium positions goes the reserve driver. Another fantastic performance maybe on display for him. Clearly a strong track is Singapore at the Marina Bay circuit for Dark Viper GT, not making too many mistakes at the moment. Picked up the win obviously in the sprint race, and currently in P3 in the feature race. It could be a win and a podium on the board. It could be a lot more because he's not exactly losing too much time out to Lolanoba, and I can only assume because those soft compound tires do struggle for grip, I mean significantly more than what those super softs can. It's clearly just to go a bit more longer on those tires and have the, you know, worsted tires in the beginning, but then having that grip later on and still having the tire temps in his favor when other drivers would be coming into the pit lane.
Yeah, exactly right. The virtual safety car would play into the hands of those super soft runners a little bit. They'll probably be able to go that one extra lap maybe, having not worn those tires under the virtual safety car. But Lolanoba still plenty fast on the softs, not catching up, still dropping off Krizik's in the lead, but in 2nd place on the soft tires. Not a bad place to be. We'll see how that turns out later in the race when they do have to switch tires.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like it seems to be just settling down a touch as we expected coming into the feature race. It was going to be a bit more just consistent in terms of lap times. It's going to be a lot more patient. It's just about doing the long game. Realistically, if you have an opportunity to make a move, take it. People like Hayden Gillis and Lolanoba using those soft compound tires to go a bit longer on the circuit, maybe use an overcut, or at least at the very least of it, try and re-overtake on the super softs later into the race. Maybe they're aware that they have the pace on the super soft compound tires and they don't want to wear them out too quickly or just overall use them, because they know if there's going to be a mandatory pit stop, it's going to be at least one stop and it's going to be a switch to the other tire. So if you're on the super softs, you're guaranteed to go to the softs. If you're on the softs, you're guaranteed to go to the super softs, because that's the tire allocation. There is no other compound for you to go to. So realistically, it's not an easy fight for the people who will be switching to the softs later into the race, but it will work in their favor near towards the end of the race.
Exactly right. Those that have the advantage now are going to be at a disadvantage at the end, and it's just about balancing that out and what's going to be the optimal over the race length. Here we see Damien going for a move on Jack Socials. Can they get down the inside? Not quite this time.
Currently 3 tenths, now 4 tenths separating Adam Sanson as well, both running wide out of the exit of the next couple of corners. I'm really trying to get these corner name right, but I was looking at my, I was thinking about what I was doing in sprint race and then also in the OSQ one-shot qualifying, and I kept getting the corner numbers wrong. I don't know, it's a tricky little thing.
Yeah, I think the fan vote has not only stitched up the drivers in terms of preparation, it also stitches up the commentators as we can't prepare for this track coming with extra time.
I got a track map. You know, I got all the information I'd usually get. It's just really difficult to see where they are on circuit sometimes, and F1 Damien on the exit of the bridge has unfortunately just seemed to lose out a few positions and also just struggling in terms of their top end speed, but big kick on the rear there for P12 as well, but nearly will-to-will between P11 and P10.
Yeah, there might have been a drama between a couple of drivers there, I think, as we see, is that the first pit stopper. Krizik's coming into the pits.
That is your race leader, and there's now a new race leader, and oh, that is not a familiar thing. I've definitely seen 1,000 times by this point. Lolanoba back into P1 on those soft compound tires. And here's the real question. How much further out can he push those tires before needing to come into the pit lane himself. Luke Howick in P2, 6.2 behind with Hayden Gillis on those soft compound tyres as well. So the drivers who were originally sticking on those soft compound tyres now getting ahead of anyone that was on those SS purple compound tyres, the super softs. However, how will this work in the favour for the F2 cars who are now on those red compounded tyres? Does it work better in their favour, or now with people on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, maybe do they have slightly more tread? Well, I mean not tread, sorry. Do they have slightly more rubber that hasn't flicked off yet?
Exactly right, and crucially as well, a lot of the drivers coming in on the same lap there, so Krizix doesn't have that many drivers in front of him to get back up to Lolanova. He's not going to get stuck in traffic, as sometimes happens with this, early pit stop strategy. And I think this could work out quite nicely for Krizix. It's just about settling into the soft tires. And it's almost a time trial battle now, right? Lolanova and Krizix both have that clear air. They can just get their head down, set the fastest laps they possibly can, and then once the strategy plays out at the end, we'll see how they stack up against each other.
Absolutely. Dark Viper GT also in P7, bringing himself closer towards Chesnoid Gaming in P6. 2.5 tenths separated between the two as they get through the exit of the bridge onto the, I believe is another part of the bridge above a river, but now with DRS active on the Echoes of the Walls and Museum, which you can see on the right-hand side on the outside line. Can Dark Viper GT get the throttle down? Can do so, upshifting the gears, and now the MP Motorsport finds another position in his favor. Luke Howick, 8.3 seconds off P2, and it's now P3 who comes in. Krizix already approaching the final corner, so that's going to be the first undercut successful in the favor for Van Amersfoort Racing. And maybe just better pace and better strategy in the favor for Krizix. Like I said, we'll have to wait and see what Lolanova and Hayden Gillis' pace is like on those super softs once they come into the pit lane. I can only assume they'll probably end up being undercut, but can they regain position on the circuit? That is the question that will be answered.
So those super soft tyres lasting about 7 to 8 laps there. So a few more laps we'd expect from Lolanova and Hayden on the softs, and then they're going to be back in and try and sprint to the end. As now, look at this gap here from Krizix, 8 seconds to the next driver who has already stopped.
Really shows you how different it can be in terms of deficit. I mean, 8.2 seconds, let's obviously not take away the fact that he did come into the pit lane and took away a lot of his time in the beginning because of that. However, what we can track closer is actually how that gap continues to come down. Currently at 8 seconds on the dot, and now down to 7.9. He's cutting time like it's, I don't even know what to reference it to. Whatever the case may be, he's cutting down time quite quickly, and significantly for that matter. 7.7 seconds as he approaches into the third and final sector. Clearly, VAR has the betterment in terms of pace on these fresh set of soft compound tyres, just in terms of tyre temps and degradation. I mean, though your tyres may last slightly longer than what those super softs can, fresh set of softs will always work better than an old set.
Absolutely right, and so he's trying to make the most of it.
That is F1 Damien into a barrier, by the way. Jessica Bull just making sure to stop and look for the room to make sure to avoid any type of further damage to occur. Safety car has been deployed, and it is Singapore that keeps the record of a 100% safety car rate. It is guaranteed for there normally to be a safety car, and on this occasion it is now occurred. So, with safety car deployed, does this give a free pit stop for Hayden Gillis and Lolanova? It doesn't matter. They didn't get an opportunity to come in at that very point. What it does do, until they reach the next lap, they will all be under delta conditions. Meaning, for Lolanova and Hayden Gillis, they'll also be under delta. But this gives a good opportunity where they may actually stay out ahead of Krizix and completely destroy any type of opportunity they would have had if safety car wasn't deployed. Also, with safety car being out for a few laps, this gives an opportunity for them to be on those super softs without actually wearing them out.
And I was just about to talk about how the gaps have been opening up a little bit throughout the field. And unfortunate there for F1 Damien, but it has just kicked new life into this race, because this is going to be potentially exciting. Like you say, it might just fall into the lap here of Lolanova if they can get the super soft tires to the end. We saw that it was about 7 laps where the early runners got rid of the soft tires. Now they've got 8 laps to the end. Is that going to be... Is he going to have to take it a little bit easy
Intriguingly, though, it's Lolanoba in P1 by 18.7 seconds. Hayden Gillis, however, only 8 seconds separates him to Krizix, and though the deficit between is much shorter, look at where Krizix is on the circuit compared to Hayden Gillis. You know, they're both on the straight now, obviously Hayden making his way into the chicane. It's very possible that Krizix is going to reach the timing line, and if he's not allowed to, get going because of Delta, he's still going to be behind Hayden Gillis. So you can see he's rolling, he's really starting to approach up. Hayden Gillis only entering now, so Krizix will take P2 away from Hayden Gillis, but Lolanoba in P1, how will he stand on the exit?
Here is the pit exit.
He will come out.
Oh, it's close though, isn't it?
Oh, no, it's P1 though. It's P1. It's close, but it is P1.
It came down to the line.
Racing. Wow.
It came down to that safety car line, rejoin line. Just ahead was Lolanova. Krizix would have been pushing the Delta to the limit to try and get through, and both of them really, how close they were to that Delta time that you have to stick to under safety car made a difference, because there was only like a 10th between them. There was nothing between them as he exited the pits. But however, Lolanova does have those super soft tires, fresh super soft tires, so potentially they could just run away with this one now a little bit.
What was the amount of laps you said those super softs could do?
We saw them come in at the end of lap 6, I believe, is the
lap 6.
We saw the pit stops.
Usually, and obviously we're starting to form a train here under the safety car. So obviously we've got Lolanova, who is now the new race leader again. We had Krizix, who retook the lead, but now it's Lolanova on those super softs, who just managed to stay out ahead of anyone else on the pit exit, and obviously that now sees himself in P1. Now, usually under safety car conditions, you get 2 to 3 laps where these drivers will drive around behind the Mercedes GT Black Series safety car edition, obviously, and this is where we then get to see a bit better of an advantage for Lolanova, because quite simply he gets practically free as an FREE 2 to 3 laps of tire management.
Yeah, absolutely. The longer the safety car stays out, the better it is for Lolanova there. I kind of want it, as a neutral spectator, I want it to come in early. Come in this lap and we'll see if Lolanova can make these tires last. But the other driver to watch as well, of course, is Hayden Gillis. Ended up coming out of the pits in 6th position there. So with those fresh tires, they'll be looking to push through the field. And we might see some overtakes in the second half of this race.
Absolutely. F1 Damien, unfortunately, retiring. I'm just trying to see where that may have been on the circuit or in the pit lane. I would like to assume it is in the pit lane. I don't see any debris anywhere, and also a lack of dots appearing on my track map.
F1 Damien brought out the safety car. Ooh. He was on circuit.
Oh wait, no. You know what he's done? He's left the session, and I've confused it for a retirement. So my apologies, everyone. I'm blind. Anyway, it's Jessica Ball, who's now gone up to P9, as it looks like F1 Scott coming into the pit lane. And you know what? Now that we're under safety car conditions, we're just relaxing a little bit. The tension is growing, obviously, with Lolanova in P1. 3.5 tenths separating Krizix, and obviously for the rest of the field, everyone starts to bunch up once again. All tires are quite, practically new, apart from some of the later people who've gone on the soft compound tires. 4 laps for F1 Alex Adam Sanderson. I quite liked your idea when we were trying to get an idea on audio volumes, because obviously we didn't know what the audio mix was going to be. We didn't know how loud I was going to be, how loud you were going to be. So you wanted commentary voice, you wanted something loud, so you could get a better idea on where we should be leveled at in terms of volume. And you were like, oh, you know what, just do what you had for breakfast. I don't know. And I was like, well, obviously it's like 2 in the morning. I haven't had breakfast yet, but we'll refer to the breakfast we had yesterday. So I just started yelling to the top of my lungs, and it's a croissant with ham and cheese toasted in a toasty maker, and it's going down the inside. The croissant makes another position on the Singapore Grand Prix. Oh man, a croissant, and it was delicious as well for anyone that was wondering. A ham and cheese toasted croissant. But yeah, that's how we figured out how loud our volumes were.
How good! You're making me hungry bringing that back up again now. I think I'm ready for my breakfast after this.
You know what? I've got 2 more croissants there in the cupboard as well. So.
You tease me. You tease me. I'm tuning in from New Zealand, of course, so we're at 7:30 a.m. We've got the Oceania broadcast here for the F2.
Exactly. The Oceanic region is here. You're from New Zealand. I'm from Western Australia. It's currently 3:37 in the morning over here, so it's horrific, but we're here nevertheless.
And we still have this one more lap of the safety car, so continues to go the way of these super soft runners. And I saw as well, F1 Scott coming into the pits. I wonder if that was purely just to get those super soft tires. You know, if you're already somewhere near the back, you might as well take that stop, get the freshest tires, and Chestnut as well has got 0 lap odd softs coming into the pit. So I wonder if that's a good strategy for someone at the back, get fresh tires and then try and get the overtakes through these last 5 laps it might be of this race.
F1 Scott doing the same as in Fraddock. He made his Formula 2 debut here. I mean, he has driven here in Formula 2 previously as a full-time driver before finding the promotion up to Formula 1, but F1 Scott is now a reserve driver. He raced here once this season, and that was at Spain, like we saw with Infratic. He finished in P4 in the sprint race, P16 in the feature race, and right now he's already doing a better job in the feature race than we saw previously, and could find a significant amount of positions, as you mentioned, because those super soft compound tires are brand new, brand spanking new, 1 lap old, and considering the tire warm-up you can kind of get on the safety car, which is quite minimal, especially seeing how low grip this circuit is, and also how hard it is to get temperature into the tires. Obviously now it's a little cooler as well, so it's even harder to try and get temperature into it as quick as possible, and can be really hard to get the traction. Safety car is in this lap. I'll tell you what, this is really starting to tense up at the moment. Krizix would love an opportunity to get back up into P1. He used the undercut strategy. Safety car completely diminished any progress that Krizix made. Lolanoba should have been undercut, but all because of a sneaky little safety car brought out by F1 Damien. It's given the opportunity to Lolanoba. And so Krizix in P2 in the VAR will need to fight for position for the life of him. Apex to apex. Curb to curb, flat to the floor, pedal to the metal. He's pulled the trigger. Lolanoba across the line. It's green flag running here in Singapore. VAR in P2 already significantly down on Lolanoba in P1. You can see MP Motorsport on the outside line trying to bring himself closer into the first couple of corners. Can't seem to get it done, and it's still P3 set in stone for Dark Viper GT, looking to potentially take away P2 on the same lap old tires. And you can already see F1 Scott using the inside line, using the grip and traction, which switches to the outside to try and get past Infratic here in P9. Already up to P10, and a penalty against his name. But can it be into the top 10? Yes, it can. F1 Scott on the outside line. Yeah, my apologies. And now goes up to P9 from a fantastic move being made and continuing his push on a fresh set of the Super Softs.
And it is just a great getaway, exactly what Lolanoba wanted out in front. Just getting away from all these other cars, avoiding some of that mayhem that started going on in that midfield. That is the trouble when the pack is close and you're in that midfield battle. The cars trying to go everywhere, trying to find any little gap they can to make a move. F1 Scott up 1 position, but has picked up the 3-second track limits penalty. And with how close they all are because of the safety car, that could be really costly.
And apologies for the hay fever that came out of nowhere. Luke Howick currently in P5, also trying to bring himself closer towards Dragonfiles in P4, using the slipstream and tow and using the rear diffuser for that aerodynamics to flow through P5. Unfortunately, Luke Howick will have to stay in his current position. No DRS down that straight. Obviously, the removed bridge now just sees a longer straight being implemented into Singapore. It is Jessica Bell, or Bull, my apologies, in P13, trying to make a move against Jack Socials. Safety car has retightened up the pack, and Lolanoba hasn't exactly pulled away in any real case at the moment. 7.5 tenths between P1 and P2, and now up to 8 tenths, but realistically still inside that 1 second deficit in 2 laps time, or at least 1 lap time. Sorry, we should see DRS reactivated as Adam Sanderson and Infratic having a fantastic battle.
And there's a few battles going on at the moment. We've got this battle here between the two Red Bull cars, who there's no team orders between these two. Look at them, they just keep going at it now down the inside. Can they squeeze through a little bit of a lockup? We often see that into the F2 cars. They're going to carry on side by side into the next corner as well. Heavy fighting, and there's drivers behind lurking, wanting to get a piece of it. F1 Alex, Hayden, just waiting for something to play out, because it just feels like something's going to eventually go wrong when you're fighting this close in such a tight circuit.
And Hayden Gillis currently in P6, bringing himself closer towards Luke Howick in P5. Good exit, gets the rotation through, using the outside line to get the throttle down just a little bit quicker. Can't seem to maximize it though. Had a little bit of wheel spin and kicked on the rear end of the car, so now the Formula 2 AR team will stay in P6 right now. Luke Howick and Dragonfiles, which is actually two separate teams with the same academy livery for Red Bull, which is Dams Racing and High Tech GP. Right now, Hayden Gillis right now in P6, still sticking with the fight between these two. All it takes is a single slip up, a single piece of contact, and we can really start to see a good fight between these two. Yellow flag deployed. Looks like Chesnoid Gaming goes spinning. No debris that is further spread. Luke Howick with a 3-second time penalty. 4 track limits, and that slip up has occurred for running wide into the final corner. Hayden Gillis will now send it down the inside. Keeps it fended off on the inside. Bit of a send that he looked for it, but he couldn't get it stuck in stone. And Hayden Gillis now up to P5.
Bit of a moment there. I think there was a little bit of a touch to the rear corner, but they get away with it this time. And Luke didn't want to give those positions up. Dragonflies and Hayden do get through. We saw Lola Nova set the fastest lap on the previous lap as well, but still not really pulling away too much from Krizix. I think Krizix wanted to keep it as close as possible and see if Lola Nova's tyres do go off on those final couple of laps as this battle continues. Hayden wants another spot here. And look who's lurking in the background. Luke wants revenge as well. Side by side through the corner again. Who's going to have the run on the exit? This little battle pack just raging on and on, lap after lap.
620 horsepower in power output that you find in these 3.4 litre single turbocharged V6 engines. And right now you can see being used Dragonfiles with contact to the rear diffuser of Hayden Gillis. And that has gone significantly in the wrong direction. Unfortunately, now Hayden Gillis losing out a little bit more time, still in P4. Does he have rear end damage? I don't know, but will to will between Luke Howick and Infratic. And they've been like this for the last couple of corners, even before the straight occurred. More contact being made between the two cars at the moment. Luke Howick still holding on to P6, looking to send it down the inside. Slight kick on the rear there, contact made to Infratic. F1 Alex is now brought to the pack in P8, and now sees Infratic in P7. Brought closer towards Luke Howick in P6. Bit of a kick on the rear there as they get around the final corner. DRS now active, using the slipstream and toe towards into turn 1, but they're not quite there yet, and they can't seem to close down that gap down enough. F1 Alex and P8 will stay where they are, and Prema in an all-out war at the moment as they continue to tussle and bustle for position. They also had slight contact between one another, and I wonder how the team principal will feel about that one. Team orders being completely and utterly ignored, and now with DRS active, has another good opportunity in Infratic in P7. Can he make the move stick? No, he can't, because there's DRS ahead for Luke Howick, and that is just causing all types of aerodynamic flow to completely mist off into the background for Infratic. That keeps Luke Howick in P6 for the time being as Dragonfiles continues into P5, pulling and pushing away. Plus, it helps that Luke Howick has a penalty against his name. Infratic and F1 Alex really need to start working together just a little bit closer, because Prema are right now neck and neck at the moment.
They're sliding around, they're tapping the walls, and they are pushing to the max for these final few laps. Every position is just worth gold. They want to move up as much as they can. Absolutely sending it, putting on a show for us. It is great to see. Luke Howick having to do a lot of defending in the second half of this race. And again, he's got a driver coming up the inside. Can he go around the outside and hang on to it? He can, side by side. You love to see it. Enough space given, and he holds on again for the time being. But he's going to be vulnerable at the next corner.
Pardon me. So, we're currently, if you have a look at that timing sheet, lap 17 of 17. The feature race now comes down to this. Krizix has actually managed to bring down that gap, has kept the pace on his side. Are those super soft compound tires starting to come to an end? 6/10 separated. Jack Socials falls down to P11. This is the fight for the lead. 4.5 tenths, has the DRS. Can't do it at the first real opportunity to overtake a Formula 2 car, and so it continues on. At the next couple of corners, we'll be approaching in towards the turn at number 6, already out of 5, through into 7, and now onto the straight here. And this is just starting to spice it up a little bit more. Good defending from Lolanova, however. And it just seems like no real opportunity is opening up for VAR at the moment. Krzyzix wants the opportunity to potentially win this race. Gets the rotation down. Throttle is down, but a big kick out of the rear. Too much torque was produced. Over 6,000 RPM is located inside these ICEs. And as we continue throughout the exit, out of the exit of turn 14, onto 15 at the kink at the hairpin. There's not much left to go. Apex to apex, curb to curb, confidence or desperation. It is confidence in the eyes of Lolanova, and it is another feature race win. Wow, Lolanova will come across the line. Fireworks continue to flail away, and it is Dams Racing once again on the top step of the podium.
What an absolute finish. We talked about if that strategy might mean that they come together at the end of the race, and that is exactly what happened. Lolanova with the edge in the end. What a drive there to just hold off Krzyzix on that last lap.
No, absolutely. It was an incredible fight. He had the strategy against him near the end of the race. It was clear Krzyzix may have just had a little bit more grip and a bit more traction in his tires, even on 11-lap-old soft compound tires, but couldn't keep it in it. And unfortunately fell away from him at the very end of it. P2 is all he could secure. Hayden Gillis with Driver of the Day, which I'm sure we will be switching around as we make our own decision on Driver of the Day. But whatever the case may be, race is over, but the stream is yet far from it because we have interviews next. But let's enjoy this podium celebration, because what a race it was. Like we mentioned before, it's Dams back on top again. The Constructors continues to pull out another win in the favor for Lolanova. Wow. And can we just enjoy the statistic for a moment? Because now it's continued to be his lowest position in a feature race is P2. And the lowest finish he's got is stuck at that. Even after this race, he's continued to keep that statistic. And now it's 5 feature race wins in a row.
Absolutely unstoppable. He's just been producing week after week. Even with the week off, you think maybe there's going to be a change in momentum, but Lolanova comes back, puts it at the top, and, you know, a great drive. Fell his way a little bit with that strategy, but he had to make the tires last and proved that he could do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a fantastic race. It was a great display of driving. I mean, overall, Singapore, as much as it's you know, it's not very nice to say, it's hard to watch racing here because it gets so stranded with so many drivers. Gaps start to separate, and it becomes quite a strategic race. Now, in endurance, you know, and stuff like that, seeing quite lengthy races and seeing how the strategy plays out, it makes you still get plenty of entertainment, because majority of the time, especially in, you know, places like WEC or IMSA or, you know, places like that, or even ACC and, you know, GT World Challenge, though technically they're not classes, they're just, you know, rate of driver. You know, you still see so much closer racing, no matter the circuit, no matter the condition, because of there being so much, you know, on circuit at one time, and because of how many classes there are. So I think in the case for something like this, just having these Formula 2 cars and just having, you know, such a short race, and because of how high tire degradation was and the situation where we were in, with it being such cool in terms of track temp, they couldn't get it up to temperature. It just meant that gaps, you know, started to fall away and extend, and it meant that overtaking became quite limited in a lot of the places of the feature race.
Yeah, we really saw in that middle phase it started to settle down, didn't it? And I was starting to wonder, you know, are we just going to see them cruise to the end? But the safety car came out in the crucial moment, really, and really livened that up. And again, these F2 drivers, they never fail to produce some exciting action, right? Even though we talk about the track being hard to overtake, they were still going for it, still trying to make moves, and a few drivers putting up stout defense to keep it exciting for us spectating and making it easier for the commentators, which is great. Thank you very much for doing that, team.
Yeah, we very much appreciate it, as we always do, and we always appreciate the fans for picking such fantastic tracks that fill us with enjoyment and love and fulfill all our needs that we want as a commentator. I'm kidding. It's a fantastic circuit, don't get me wrong. It's extremely technical, it's extremely challenging. You know, in qualifying, and especially in like a time trial situation, you can get some really competitive, you know, showings. You can really get something quite exciting happening, you know. Formula 1 cars and Formula 2 cars pushing out the absolute limit of what they can achieve around quite a tight circuit like Singapore. You know, it's exciting. But in a race, when it's so tight and it's so difficult, and, you know, tired, you know, overall traction and grip is struggling and is so high, it's really hard to overtake.
Yep. We saw in the sprint race, though, Krizix could do it. A couple of drivers were doing it. Luke putting up the stout defense, he was kind of using that to his advantage, right, of the overtaking situation, making it hard to overtake. I think it would have been interesting if we didn't have that safety car. It wouldn't have given that free pit stop, and then we would have had to see Lolanova try and make those overtakes through the field more so, and that would have been a very different dynamic, and that difficulty of overtaking would have then as well played its role. And I think, you know, Krizix will be feeling like a little bit hard done by in terms of with the timing of that, because they put on a great race there. They were out in front, controlling the pack, and then Lolanova just got that free pit stop, and those few extra seconds that they got makes a difference in the end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm just trying to see if we may be able to get some interviews potentially in our favor. We just need to see if they may want to join the waiting room. We'll have to wait and see. A little conversation with someone would be nice, but we'll wait a few more minutes and we'll see how that all you know, takes place. If we get nothing, fair enough, but we'll have to wait and see how that all plays. I believe we've got Dark Viper GT waiting there as well. Our podium finish, though, that was obviously finishing with on P1 Lolanova, P2 was Krizix, and P3 it's fading from my memory.
I'm glad you're the one who said it. I am hoping someone might have a screenshot to send us or something.
Oh no,
no, it's not a good look from us, is it?
It's not a good look. Oh dear, this is it. Listen, for anyone, and I mean this, for anyone in the Twitch chat that is currently judging us like no tomorrow, first of all, fair play. Second of all, you will do this when you commentate, and it happens to every commentator. As soon as a race finishes, everyone and their position just fades from your memory, and then for some reason you'll remember it like 2 hours later. It makes no sense.
Oh, as soon as you click the stream end button, there's like 5 different things that pop back in, and you're like, I should have said that. Oh,
yeah, no. Exactly. Yeah.
In the chat, we've got Lolanova greater than everyone else, and I think that sums up the finish.
Yeah. To be fair, Lolanova's fans are quite passionate, so that's something we normally see quite often. I see on YouTube comments all the time, and, you know, on different clips and stuff that take place, every single comment is, you know, rather, you know what, it's not just Lolanova, it's also El Rey Guri. If it's between those two, they have such passionate fans, and that's something we love to see as well, as passionate fans in virtual motorsport, not just in real life racing as well, and in a place where content is creator series, and also where racing is, you know, thrived in. It's a fantastic place to see it. So we'll figure out the position of where Dark Viper GT finished once my brain decides to work. But enough about that. Let's have some interviews get underway. So I need to figure out how I do this, because I'm not on PC. So please just give me a moment. Hang on a minute. Oh, I figured it out. I am just so good at this. Alrighty. So I have moved them to the wrong room. I'm doing great at the moment. I don't know why I've been entrusted to do this. I'm so sorry. Okay, let's get this moving. I can't move them to the streaming thing. This is wonderful. I am feeling great at the moment. Okay, let's do this, and let's just message someone to move him over himself. Alright, I'm under pressure at the moment, and it's not going well, and I don't know how Discord works, so thumbs up, and we are going to continue trying here.
Shall I see if I can get... Let's see if we can get Dark Viper. He's got his microphone.
Yes, we're good. I apologize. I sent you to a WRC broadcast channel because I got it messed up. Anyway, congratulations on a fantastic position. And I'll be honest, we're both clueless on where you finished again because we're having that commentator blank feeling at the moment. So please remind us, and then we can have a big, flush of memory, and we can talk about your race.
Yeah. P1 in the sprint, P3 in the feature.
Podium, of course. Yep.
Yeah, of course.
Right, well, let's talk about the sprint to begin with, because that is now flushing back into my memory. Fantastic race win in your favor, and to be honest, it was kind of uneventful in your favor, at least. I mean, there was a few tussles and bustles at the very beginning of the race, and, off the race start, but after that point, you just seemed to look so comfortable in the car. You seemed to have the pace, you were stable, you didn't seem to have too many problems at all, and that gap continued to extend, and what a fantastic sprint race win it was.
Yeah, I mean, I got really lucky because it was a bit like a huge incident in turn 1. I just dodged a car there, and then everyone always fights in F2, so once you're clear of the field, it then sort of it's like a fight for P2, even the feature race. Dragging after the safety car because it's such a hard track to overtake. He's just able to hold everyone up, and it relieves a lot of pressure at the front.
And you also have the advantage of clean air as well.
Yeah, I mean, I got lucky because obviously Lolinova's at the back. Kryzix, who started right behind me, he got caught up in the crash I dodged, and he was so quick today. I feel so bad for him because before that safety car, he had that win clear. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
P3 in the feature race, however, I mean, you've gone podium to podium, and actually this is something I did bring up, and it's actually coming back to me now. If we have a look at you as a reserve driver, you've had plenty of opportunities this season, I believe, at both Qatar and Austria, if I'm looking at the right person, which I am. So, you've had your opportunities here in Formula 2 previously as a reserve driver, but you've come here into Singapore. Compared to what you did at Qatar and Austria, you've absolutely smashed it out the park. I mean, previous results, P14, P20, didn't even finish in the points for the sprint race in Austria, and then P20 in the feature race for Austria. And you've come back here into Singapore, and you've managed P1 and P3. Where's the pace come from?
I just want to say, both sprints beforehand, I've always had contact, Pondon in Qatar, a bit of netcode there, spun me around. Austria, I got caught up when Jack Social spun in front of me, and I lost my wing full red on the front. I just needed a bit of luck in the sprint because I've always been there in the feature.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Sorry, I'm just quickly checking a message. But do you have any further questions you'd like to ask, Matt?
I just want to ask about the track, actually, because we had the fan vote. They voted for Singapore. Were you excited going into this race? I think you'll probably be happy about the track with the results in the end,
no,
but...
This is the one track I didn't want, full stop. I was I love Baku. That's a bit of a weird one for me, I know. Jeddah, I would have loved. Brazil, the other three, I was I'd love them. When I saw it was Singapore, I was oh, well, that's GG's, I'll fight for a top 5. So, I mean, I guess I like Singapore now, yeah. It's the one, exactly the one I wanted, of course.
Alright, no, well, you drove very well to get the win and then come up to 3rd place as well, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you guys for the beautiful commentary, as always.
Cheers.
Appreciate it, as always. So, with that all being said, ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe we're going to get anyone else for interviews. I've just had a little message or two, but I would like to quickly comment on just sending out some love to Lolinoba, who picked up the race win here in the feature race. I mean, a fantastic performance in his favor. Unfortunately, he won't be joining us for interviews, but I hope I am seeing love hearts in the Twitch chat, because Lolinoba, unfortunately, has, words I can't really say, but his jaw is not doing too well at the moment. Apparently, it's in a lot of pain, and he's not feeling too well. And so, apparently all race he was crying out for pain. So, you know, we hope he's all right. We hope he gets some type of medical attention. We hope he's, you know, doing all good, and we hope to see him back into the interviews and back feeling as confident as ever in future races ahead.
It just makes it a little bit more impressive, doesn't it, that he's in pain, he's still out in front.
Yeah.
What a
he's got an injury to his jaw. He's struggling to speak. He's in pain, and he's absolutely managed to outsmart certain drivers using a fantastic strategy. Used the safety car towards his advantage. Made sure to use the delta from other drivers to still, by the nick of it, but still stay out in front. And even with all that pain, still managed to win. If anyone deserves to be Formula 2 champion, trying to be non-biased here, of course, but it just seems to be Lolo Noba. He's a fighting champion, you know, in any situation. I mean, this is his 5th consecutive feature race win. He picked up P2, which is his lowest result in a feature race, and then for 3 rounds consecutively, he won the sprint and feature race. He's an animal.
Absolute. Great drive from Lolo Noba, and actually great drive from most of the field, to be fair. It was up and down. We talked to Dark Viper already. Krizix, of course, mega drive through both of them. Hayden as well was another one I was going to call out. That second race that we talked about him on the super soft tires after the same strategy as Lolo Noba after the safety car. So he did manage to get a couple of places. I believe he finished 4th in the end. So from his starting position, when we talked about it, he qualified wasn't so great. I think it was down in 9th. So to come up through the field was good, a good result as well for him.
I mean, he's been consistent. You know, he's finally back. He had a little break in a bit of time period where he wasn't actually racing. If I just currently look at where he is in the championship, I do believe Hayden Gillis finds himself in P9. So he missed out specifically on 2 Grand Prix, which was Qatar and Spain, and obviously that's 2 weeks in a row that we haven't seen Hayden Gillis on the circuit. He came back for Austria, and obviously we all expected that maybe there's going to be a bit of a time where he may need to get used to things again. Maybe he's got some practice in, but compared to drivers who's consistently been racing week after week, he may need some time. He comes back, sprint race, the very first session of the entire weekend. He wins the thing. He's incredible, and he clearly has the pace on his side. It's just sometimes there seems to be inconsistencies. He's consistent, but sometimes it can just sway a little bit. Not exactly, you know, P15, for example, but instead of P1, it becomes P5.
Yep, and you know, consistency throughout the season is going to be critical if we are talking about trying to get those places in the championship. 13 round season, so we're only at round 6. There's still plenty of time left to go. I'm sure we're going to see more movement up and down, except maybe Lolo Noba if he continues that streak of domination.
No, I agree, 100%. It's to be honest, I could go about the statistics all day because I have plenty of notes to go on and on and on. But it's incredible from Lolo Noba, the pace he's been able to show, and no one's been able to match it in terms of wins. I believe he has the most wins in a season compared to any other Formula 2 driver in any other season. I believe this is the 3rd season we've had specifically for Formula 2. It's the 7th season overall for Creator Series. You know, this 2nd season potentially. I'm trying to follow it up here, but the point I'm making is he just seems to have so much confidence and pace on that circuit and has really been able to put it all on the line.
Yep, and the pressure, I love the format as well. We've got the sprint race with the reverse grid, so we get to see, you know, you've got to have the overtaking skills to get through the field as well. It's not just lead from the front every time. And then the one-shot qualifier, the pressure that comes on there to try and produce. And he continues to produce front row starts in their one-shot qualifying. So over 1 lap, as well as over the race distance, Lolo Noba has been great. And then, of course, the feature race, we got the strategy to mix it up. So Creator Series has been a lot of fun.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, but a driver is probably waiting to have a little bit more fun. And that is not to be taken out of context because we need to crown a driver of the day, and we haven't done so yet. So who are we thinking for DOTD? Because there's obviously the easy one to go for, and that's Lolo Noba, because he's picked up his 5th consecutive feature race win. You know, but do we want to be creative? Do we want to think about drivers who may have made their way through the field? Given that, you know, championship leader, someone like quite a hard challenge. Do we want to do something different, or do we want to go for Mr. Obvious?
No, I think Lolo Noba did a great job in the feature race, but in the sprint race, struggled a little bit more coming from the back of the field. We didn't get the full story, but I think maybe picked up a bit of damage, and we saw them get bogged down in 7th place in that race. Whereas we do have someone like Dark Viper winning the sprint race, dominant style, and then getting places in that podium, in fact, in the feature. And then the third contender I want to put forward is Cryzix. We heard from Dark Viper that they picked up damage and didn't get through the field as quickly as they wanted in the sprint race. Still finished on the podium, and then 2nd place could have had the win. They had the pace for the win, but the strategy sort of fell the other way, and it went to Lolanova. So I'm actually leaning towards giving Cryzix driver of the day today.
I'm between rather Cryzix or Dark Viper GT. I'm between the two. Because Dark Viper GT, like you mentioned, made positions. He had a very cruisy, easy race win in the sprint and still managed to get that podium, in the feature race. So it's tricky to kind of choose between the two. But you know what? We'll go with yours and we'll say that Cryzix gets this one, because let's also mention he had a fantastic fight and strategy battle, because it wasn't specifically a battle on circuit the entire time. It was the mental game. How are you going to play out your strategy here? When are you going to box onto new tires? Who is going to have the advantage by the end of the race? And realistically, in a lot of cases, Cryzix nearly won it. He decided to cut down that gap more and more and more, and fortunately the distance wasn't long enough where we could see that potential overtake, and that is unfortunate on his end. But another thing to consider was the safety car. If there was no safety car, he would have definitely undercut him, and though his tires may have been a little bit more degraded, would have had a much larger gap. So if that gap would have come down due to Lolanova having better traction, we don't know. But the case may be he finished in P2, and I agree, it should be Cryzix.
Brilliant. Driver of the day, Cryzix. What a great
driver.
There
you go. Waffling.
I will say as well, I think Lolanova owes his pit crew a beer at the end of that race, because when he came out of the pits, it was only like a car length between them. So if it had been longer, he might have ended up behind and it might have changed it as well.
I mean, to be fair, it's technically him as well. He needs to click the button on his wheel so, he turns in time. So to be honest, at this point, I believe every driver has gone purple. I haven't seen someone get green or red on that pit turn in years. So I think a lot of people have started to master that turn in and when to click the button, and it's just become muscle memory at that point. So yeah, it's definitely started to get a bit more comfortable for drivers, and F1 24 is constantly evolving, in terms of how the game is laid out. More updates are coming, more patches are coming. We had one not too long ago, I believe last week, that had some very slight changes, to certain aspects of how the cars drive, like, how sensitive traction may be, in terms of engine braking, how sensitive that is, how effective it is at, both recharging battery and stopping locking and stuff, and, just stuff like that. It really seemed like they did a few changes on that side of things, and it's going to continue to evolve and continue to change and continue to develop, and it's going to continue to become a better game over time. So it's going to be intriguing how that happens. Obviously, let's not forget Creator Series is powered by EA Sports, and we continue to appreciate their constant support here in Creator Series.
Yep. Very grateful for that, and I do want to say as well, I'm grateful for Creator Series bringing me in. It's been a lot of fun, and the drivers producing a great race for us to watch as well. It was awesome, and thanks Jamie as co-commentator. You've led the way through this and carried this broadcast, I think, which has been awesome.
Yeah, to be honest, it's not my best performance, but it's been a good day. So you know what, we'll take it. But I've had better highlights. But you know what, I won't be too down on myself. It was a good day. It's been a good morning, really. It's 4:10 in the morning over here, which is, what was it, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning over there now?
Yeah, I've just got the sun coming up, so I'm about to, it's a good way to kick into the day, get started.
No. Oh dear, that is how Oceanic region does it over here in Creator Series. But we appreciate everyone's constant support. Make sure to keep an eye out, because tomorrow we have the big boys, the big guns, the big drivers continuing to bring themselves into the spotlight. Think about it. Tia McMardick, Alex Gillen, more to come. F1 tomorrow, and then also consider Monday we got WRC, which may not be on. I believe
No.
it's come to an end of a season for them.
Yep.
So, no more WRC to roll through in Creator Series, at least for the time being. But don't count it out. They will be back, I'm sure, soon enough. At least give the drivers an opportunity to have a break, focus on other types of racing, maybe come back to F1 or F2. We'll have to wait and see. But in the case of WRC, nothing on Monday, but still look out for F1 on Saturday. It's coming back. It's going to be better than ever before. And it's still a mystery vote, which I believe we now know the answer to. I haven't actually seen what it was for F1. We were too focused on the great action that was going to take place here in F2. So whatever the case may be, it was, I believe actually it was Brazil for F1. So we got the Brazilian GP tomorrow, and that was decided by you people. You, see my index, that's you. At home, who decide to vote for Brazil, and that is what they will be racing at tomorrow. So I think without further ado, there's nothing much else to cover. Go watch F1 tomorrow. Go have a fantastic time. From me, Jamie Perry here in WA, from him, Matt, all the way in New Zealand at what is nearly 8 o'clock in the morning, which is mind-boggling to me, even with the time difference. Cheers.
Cheers,
and goodbye.
everyone. Yeah.